Hey everyone, welcome back to the Explainer. We're actually going to skip our usual intro stuff today because, honestly, we're stepping right into some incredibly profound territory. We are looking at Shui Feng preaching Tao, and we're attempting to decode teachings that somehow bridge ancient philosophy with ideas that mirror modern quantum physics. It is an absolutely fascinating journey into how consciousness and reality are just fundamentally intertwined. Let's get into it. So, right off the bat, think about this. Are we just kind of drifting through life, taking whatever comes our way? Or are we actively constructing reality with our minds? That's the core rhetorical hook we're exploring today. The text basically asks us to make a massive shift in how we view ourselves. It wants us to move from being these passive observers who just let reality happen to us to becoming active creators who are literally building the world around us. All right, let's jump straight into section 1, the Great Paradox. Okay, so the source text describes this concept of Tao as the consciousness of the greatest creator. It calls it the driving force, literally the lifeblood of the universe. Now, according to the text, Tao has 8 characteristics, but today we're focusing heavily on the 8th one, which is described as illusory yet actual existence. Now, I know, that sounds totally like a riddle. How on earth can something be an illusion but also actually exist? Well, the text presents this as a synthesis of all universal laws. It's this foundational force that you can't touch, yet it dictates absolutely everything that happens. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how these strict dualities break down. On one hand, we see the illusory nature of Tao. It's described as empty, boundless, having no specific forms or tactics, and seemingly heartless. But then, on the flip side, the text claims it possesses incredible substance and sentiment. So the seemingly empty void actually has crystal clear edges, incredibly strict methods, deep affection, and a whole system where rewards and punishments are exact. Shifeng points out that something seemingly empty can actually hold the strictest order and the deepest affection simultaneously. It's a massive paradox, for sure, but according to the text, it's the engine of reality. Moving right along to section 2, the observer effect. Okay, you've probably seen this before online. Picture one of those classic optical illusions, a simple animation of a spinning human silhouette. I want you to ask yourself, which way is the dancer turning? Are they spinning clockwise or counterclockwise? The source text actually uses a really specific example to illustrate this. It references a study from a US university involving one of those human rotation images. And here's the wild part. When multiple people observed the exact same image at the exact same time, their answers varied completely. Some observers saw the figure turning left. Others swore, no way, it's definitely turning right. Some even saw it alternating back and forth. The text uses this as an entry point into quantum mechanics, arguing that at a fundamental level, the direction and movement of matter depend entirely on the observer. Think about that. The exact same image yields entirely different physical realities depending on who happens to be looking at it. And this whole observer effect thing builds perfectly into another famous example cited in the text, the Japanese water molecule experiment. The source reports that scientists found the crystalline structure of freezing water actually changes based on the consciousness applied to it. So if you apply perfect, really positive thoughts, the water forms beautifully structured symmetrical crystals. But if you project chaotic or negative consciousness, it creates an ugly, disordered state. The text uses this to argue a super profound point. Our consciousness doesn't just passively observe matter, it actively determines its form and structure. Crazy, right? Let's get into section 3, Heaven, Hell, and Mirrors. So the text outlines what it calls the inner structure of life. It states quite clearly that the ability to discover beauty or ugliness doesn't actually lie in your eyes at all. It lies in this non-material inner structure. According to the text, a Buddha looks at the world and sees Buddha nature everywhere. A demon looks at the exact same world and sees demonic nature. A celestial being sees a natural, constant order. And a human? Well, the text says a human looks at the world and simply sees everyone just being busy for profit. The world itself hasn't changed one bit, only the lens of the observer has. And this actually extends into the most ordinary, day-to-day moments of our lives. The author asserts that even the nutritional value of your food depends on your mindset. A grateful mindset actually absorbs more and higher quality nutrients, while a dissatisfied, angry mindset absorbs fewer, poorer nutrients. It even changes how you experience the weather. To a happy person, a violent storm feels like this magnificent natural symphony. But to a restless, dissatisfied person, a perfectly sunny day with a gentle breeze just feels like the universe is actively mocking them. So here is the really crucial point the text is making. Heaven and hell do not exist as absolute physical places. According to Sufang, they exist entirely within human consciousness. Basically, if heaven isn't already inside your mind, you can never arrive there externally. The text uses a mirror as a really great metaphor for this. An optimist looks in the mirror and sees a radiant smile. A pessimist looks and sees a gloomy frown. The mirror itself, just like reality, is completely neutral. The external state is built entirely from the inside out. This fascinating concept perfectly illustrates Sufang's assertion that all truth, beauty, and authority are purely subjective constructs based entirely on the observer's mind. Take a look at these examples. In the eyes of a lover, an ordinary person looks as beautiful as she, who was this legendary Chinese beauty. But to an enemy, a perfectly good person looks like a literal demon. The author even uses himself as an example, noting that certain groups see him, Sufang, as beautiful, while others see him as ugly. He goes on to point out, and I love this one, that even if an elephant is objectively beautiful, a mouse is probably never going to want to marry it. And no matter how incredibly wise a fox is, chickens and ducks are definitely never going to accept it as their master. Truth and beauty, according to the text, simply do not exist independently of the mind perceiving them. Which brings us to Section 4, the architecture of reality. The text contrasts two very distinct worlds of existence here. On the left, we have the kingdom of necessity. This is that feeling of drifting aimlessly or feeling super constrained that so many humans experience. And why? Because as the text says, they haven't fully entered Tao. On the right is the kingdom of freedom. Once a person enters Tao, they stop drifting helplessly and become a master of their own consciousness. They are suddenly able to create everything according to their own desires. Now, to explain this kingdom of freedom, the source material offers some pretty bold metaphysical examples of creation. First, it points to the biblical Jehovah willing light into existence simply by speaking it. Second, it references a super celestial being named Yu, supposedly existing in 36-dimensional spaces on Zhufang Island. According to the text, she can turn breath into clouds and sand into thousands of trees through pure consciousness alone. Finally, the text positions Zhufang himself as a guide, leading individuals to these ethereal destinations, the 1,000-year and 10,000-year worlds. Now, obviously, we are just impartially reporting the claims made in this text, but they are used to vividly illustrate the ultimate potential of reaching this kingdom of freedom. And this brilliantly illustrates how the text grounds these lofty cosmic claims in something we can actually understand: art. Think about it. How does a famous piece of music, like the violin concerto Liang Shangbo and Zhu Yingtai, come into existence? Well, step 1, the composer's consciousness enters the scene. Step 2, that ethereal melody is expressed from pure thought. At this point, it's totally intangible, right? But step 3, we can hook that melody up to electronic instruments and water nozzles. Suddenly, pure intangible thought is driving tangible water fountains and lights, making water literally dance in the physical world. Just like a painter turning a blank canvas into a lush landscape, the ethereal becomes reality through the mechanism of consciousness. And finally, Section 5, the universal keys. So, what is the secret to unlocking all of this? According to the source, there are 3 universal keys to unlocking the mysteries of the universe and attaining what it calls celestial or deity status. Number 1, consciousness. Number 2, structure. And number 3, energy. By understanding that your consciousness dictates your internal structure, which in turn directs the energy that physically forms your reality, the text claims you can literally unlock the universe itself. This leads us right into one of the most powerful and honestly kind of paradoxical mandates in the entire text. Emptiness is form, form is emptiness. Possess nothing, yet own everything. The author instructs his followers that keeping the mind completely empty is actually the secret to possessing the entire universe. Think about it. The more you desperately desire to possess things, the more empty you usually feel inside. But if you maintain a state of emptiness, if you truly master your consciousness, you suddenly own everything, because from nothingness, all things can emerge. The text totally acknowledges that this is confusing and perplexing for us mere mortals, but it promises that practicing a very specific meditation called How to Be Free from the Mortal Body during meditation brings total clarity. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If it is true that reality is constructed entirely from the inside out, take a look around you right now. If you were to completely master your mind today,
How would your consciousness reshape the very room you are sitting in at this exact moment? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive explainer. Keep asking questions, keep focusing, and I will see you on the next one.